Yeah, look, the eyelids actually form a pocket with the front of the eye, the conjunctiva. So there's actually not a lot of room there. So the contact lens may fold and kind of sit in the pocket on or above the eye. So it's rare for a contact lens to truly get stuck up there. Quite often, if I have a patient who's come in and said, oh, I can't get my contact lens out, quite often it's no longer there. And when we look in the pockets and or underneath the eyelid and then down the bottom, well and truly the lens is not there. So you hear of those internet stories of finding 17 contact lenses up under someone else's eyelid, and I don't know about the credibility of them because there's not a lot of room there for that many contact lenses that some of them would eventually find their way out. You know, and if we think about it, wouldn't be a very good design to have access to the brain through the eyeball that quickly. All sorts of stuff would get back in there. So yeah, so lots of protection. You really, yes, you can rub and fold the lens up there, but it's usually easily retrieved. As far as lenses falling out, look, a lot of that came from the very early days. We're talking 1950s, 1960s, where people wore very, very small, basically polycarbonate lenses, just about, very, very tiny 8mm lenses, and obviously manufacturing tolerances in those days are nothing like what we've got now. And so it was very easy for the lens to sort of fall out or get blinked out. So there's a bit of that's carried on over the eons. I think a lot of the time lenses come out when you rub your eyes. So one of our bits of advice is, well, if you're wearing contact lenses, don't rub your eyes. We're not a fan of eye rubbing, irrespective of whether you're a contact lens wearer or not anyway. It's not a good thing to be doing. If you're needing to rub your eyes, you need to be asking why, and dealing with whatever sort of irritation or discomfort's causing it. So where you might inadvertently blink a lens out, again, probably one of those more extreme sort of situations where your eye is particularly watery or particularly dry. And so the lens is not performing or behaving well. So again, if they feel particularly watery or feel particularly dry, you really want to be careful about not eye rubbing. So I think that's a critical piece, that contact lenses, if fit well, and that's the thing that we need to make sure that the lens is fitting well. So a loose fitting lens is more likely to move around to a point where you might more easily accidentally rub it out. But the big one is just avoid eye rubbing, and I think you get past most of those kind of issues.
So those stories about lenses falling out, from decades past, I'm assuming that they must have been like RGP hard contact lenses, because soft contact lenses are so adhesive. I just don't see how that would happen with a soft contact.
Yeah, so and if we look at even a good fitting hard lens has a much greater volume of tears underneath, so they're designed to kind of move around, and that's what makes them a very healthy lens. Actually, it's just that people have trouble getting used to the feeling of this lens moving around a bit, whereas a soft lens drapes or wraps, and so you've got a much finer layer of tear films, and that's what causes it to kind of cling.
I did have a friend who was into contact sports, and he wore soft contact lenses. But one of the issues he had was that sometimes when the opponent's glove would hit his eye, his contact would stick to their glove.
Right.
So I don't know what the solution would be for him. Maybe Ortho-K, he'd be a good candidate for that, perhaps.
Yeah, no, if you're talking sort of contact sports like that, that raises more concerns for me for a whole bunch of other reasons, because of we deal with concussions and whatnot in our practice, and seeing our odd blowout fracture. So you start to get into murky waters about the whole, is that a good sport from a vision point of view anyway? But yeah, look, your fingers in eyes playing a tackle sport, those sorts of things, they're a risk. I wouldn't promote a contact lens being a safety device, but you would expect that if they're rubbing the lens out, then they haven't yet got to your eye. So there may be a minor degree of protection, but like I said, I wouldn't be sort of saying, hey, let's go and wear contact lenses to protect our eyes. But, I think it's just one of those things that you take if you're wearing one-day lenses, take some spare lenses, make sure you're able to keep your hands clean and replace the lens if there's no other injury.